to another episode of Neon Swell. This is episode 17. Now, last episode, I started to grind off a few high spots on the top deck of the boat. Now after that, I started to finish the folding and sliding galley shelf you see here. Now in this episode, I add a few layers of 1708 to the back transom over there. I spend a few moments dealing with the 5-gallon water jug holders you see here, and then move on to the galley slider and add a few support members. So one thing I forgot to mention is this video is running 25 minutes long. I did try to edit it as much as possible, but there was just too much good content for me to cut out. So hopefully you guys can stay tuned for the entire episode, as I think you'll get some entertainment out of it. So I'm back on the boat today. I'm looking at the transom here. What I'm gonna do is create a template with the stir sticks and hot glue for the 1708 that I plan on laying inside the boat on the inside of the transom. So I kind of want to reinforce that part of the boat. There's nothing wrong with it right now, but I'll feel more comfortable on the water with at least 2 layers, maybe even 3 layers of 1708 on the back transom. There's already like a 1/4-inch piece of plywood that's back there. Hopefully I can lay it later today. I'm not sure given the amount of heat that's in the air, but we'll give it a shot. Alright, welcome back to another episode of Neon Swell. So to start this episode off and begin the process of fiberglassing the back transom, I go ahead and create this template you see here using stir sticks and hot glue. I then cut out a few layers of 1708. And before I get too involved, I go ahead and fabricate this extended paintbrush and squeegee tool you see here. This will allow me to reach the far corners of the transom when I'm inside the boat. Now to begin the process of fiberglassing the back transom, I go ahead and lay down a light layer of epoxy. Now I'd like to note that my hand is in a quite unnatural position. So this is due to the fact that I'm actually laying on my side, being shoved into the back of the second bed extension, with one arm facing forward and no room for me to reach around and dip my paintbrush into the epoxy bucket. So you can actually see here the working room that I had. That LED lamp there was the only source of light that I had for the entire process. So in this clip here, you can actually see the use of the extended squeegee tool. This allows me to help conform the fiberglass to the back transom. Now I try to get these layers of 1708 tape that you see there on the joint between the transom and the hull. I approach this method by bouncing the pieces of 1708 tape on the extended paintbrush there, then push it into the spot where it's supposed to go. Now for the far corner of the transom, this technique actually didn't work. I ended up just chucking a piece there and kind of just conformed it to the hole and hoped that it was in the right spot. So I might have lied in the previous text. I actually did get a little bit of the fiberglassing on camera. Now let me explain the process of putting a layer of fiberglass up. I had to lay on my back with the wettened fiberglass on my stomach and shimmy down the second bed extension in order to get both hands free while I was back there. Once I was back there, I was able to grab the fiberglass off my stomach and then hold it up with one arm and grab the extended paintbrush there and squeegee out any bubbles that might happen while I'm pushing the fiberglass up against the transom. It was definitely a tricky process, but everything came out quite nicely in the end. That's what happens when you spend 2 hours crawling back in the transom with like a half a foot of room. My Tyvek suit is completely torn. My hoodie popped off about 1 million times. I have no idea how much epoxy in my hair. But the job is done. Feels good, but now I gotta spend an hour getting all this epoxy out of my body. Acetone and hair doesn't really get along too well, but it gets the epoxy out, so that's what I'll be doing over there. That was a nightmare, but it came out pretty well. Just got out of the shower, and good thing for me, after spending an hour scrubbing my hair, don't have to shave it, so that's good news. Looks like I got most of it out, just soaking it in conditioner because of all the acetone that I used to clean it out. And I also have this stuff called ZEP. I think it's ZEPP or something like that, and it's got pumice in it, and whatever's in there takes epoxy right off your skin, right off of everything. It kind of just dissolves it almost immediately. I soaked my hair in that. It's not really meant for hair, but soaking my hair in that for about 10 minutes dissolved most of the epoxy, and then I was able to comb it out. Good news, so yeah, the hair's here to stay. I also wanted to show the space that I was working in. You know, it wasn't really like had a bunch of room back there, and I wanted to videotape a little bit more, but it was just really hard for me to even get a camera back there. If you can see that hole, my head was all the way back in there. There's a little, maybe 6 inches of space back there for me to even get a brush. I had to use those extending brushes. I could only really get one arm in at a time, so I was basically using my right hand the whole time. And every time I would try to put my left hand up in there, my shoulders would pry me into a spot where I would get stuck, and really had to wiggle my way back out. And I was just really, I got scared that I was going to get stuck a few times, especially as the epoxy started to dry. It started to get really sticky in there, and I caught myself getting really deep back in there. So I would get right in there, and then I could reach my arm all the way to this side just barely. So it was not comfortable, and that's the reason why my hood ended up sliding off. And then when my hood slid off, I started rubbing my head in the epoxy that was already laid down, and my shoulder ripped on the Tyvek suit, and everything just started to become a mess. And I was working against time as the epoxy was drying and starting to set, so I had to work as quick as possible to get everything situated before it started to dry really hard. I'll show you real quick exactly the space that I was working in, but I'm sure you've seen a little bit and got an idea. I wanted to get an angle where it showed me back there, but I just couldn't fit the camera in and be able to do what I had to do at the same time. So I'll give you a quick view right now. So you can see this is the little hole that I squeezed back in. I would squeeze from the inside of the boat, but this hatch was put in place so I can lay down. And then I ended up having to go from that hatch all the way in the back here. And as you can see, back there is basically where I was. And let's see if we can get some light in there. Basically where I was, just forcing myself to reach back in there. And then on this side as well, so there really was not a lot of room back there. And I tried to approach it from this side, which would be the port side, or the starboard side. And because this hatch right here goes into that side of the boat, there's really like 3 inches between that corner right there, and that side of the boat. So I really had zero room to work. The only room I really had to work was right here, and I reached as far over to this side as I could on the inside, and I don't think I was able to get the corner over here as well as I wanted to, but everything else I got pretty well. So I'm about to jump back in the boat today. I finished fiberglassing the back transom there last night. What I'm going to do today is create 5-gallon water jug holders for both the port and starboard side under the V-berth. But I have the wood laid out here, and I just have to create some templates using stir sticks and hot glue. Now I also want to take care of the companionway step down here, and I want that to be dual purpose, to both be as a companionway step down, a seat, and kind of a cutting board for the galley. Now I begin the process of designing the 5-gallon water jug holders for under the V-berth, and of course to help me achieve this design I reached for the stir sticks and hot glue first. So I go ahead and mirror the template to the port side of the boat to double check my craftsmanship and symmetry. I then take a look at creating the 5-gallon water jug holder for inside the galley. Now this will be used for active daily water needs. So I went ahead and cut out the 5-gallon water jug templates that I just created for under the V-berth and over by the galley area. I'm going to go ahead and test the fit right now and see if everything goes according to plan, and if so, I'll go ahead and cut the second piece, the exact mirror of these pieces out. As you can see, this is the bigger piece for under the bulkhead, and I'm not really sure what I want to do with this design, but this is the rough cut, and I'll go ahead and grind out where I want more or less room. So yeah, we'll go ahead and test the pieces now and see if everything fits. And of course, no job is done on this boat without forever epoxying it into its spot. So I'm back on the boat today. I'm looking at the 5-gallon water jug holders that I put in. You can kind of see it right there and right here. But those things dried yesterday in their spots really strong. And I'm excited to see how well they're going to hold up when there's a full 5-gallon water jug there. But it's not completely done. I still have a little bit of the supports to do, but it looks good, and I'll go ahead and show you that. This 5-gallon jug here fits really snug in there. I'm going to have to build some supports for the front so it can hold the weight for a solid 5-gallon filled water jug, and I think that's about 50 or 60 pounds. So as you can see, it is really strong, and that came out really well. So I'm good with the work there. I just got to grind it and clean it up, but other than that, it looks good. And I ended up doing the other side. I don't think I caught that on camera, but yeah, this dried just as hard, so it is definitely not going anywhere. So, and the other 5-gallon water jug that I put right here for the water that's going to be used for drinking water is it's all dry. This is again rock hard, not going anywhere. So the 5-gallon water jug actually does not fit in that little circle. I'm gonna have to grind it out a little bit. So I'll take a look at that later. But as you can see, I put these little brackets in there, and that is gonna be one solid piece of fiberglass and wood to hold the 5-gallon water jug. Now what I'm also looking at today is creating that shelf that I was talking about. So this is going to hold that sliding shelf that goes across the companionway and latches into the foldable galley shelf right there. Now it's kind of hard to picture it right now. You'll see it as it moves along what exactly I intend to do with that area, but it's basically just a slide that pulls out from underneath that shelf and eventually latches into that galley shelf over there. And it can be used as a seat or a cutting board or just storage area, really. But the idea is, if I don't want it there, I can just push it back into its spot and it'll be hidden away. So this is the area that I was talking about with the galley, the foldable shelf. And what this piece does here is connects right here to hold and support the weight of the larger shelf that's going to be sliding in and out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this today. That way in the next few days I can start building off this piece and see what I can come up with from there. Now I fiberglass to that vertical support there to ensure that the sliding galley shelf / seat will be able to support the weight of a person.
Shut up and sit down.
I'd then go ahead and add this vertical support. Now this support will eventually be built upon in the future, but for this particular instance I add a fiberglass and thickened epoxy lip. So that wraps up episode 17. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure and hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up as well if you enjoyed this video. And be sure and come back for more, as there's plenty of projects left here on the boat.